The real reason most men fail with women has nothing to do with what they assume. It's not their height, their bank account, their face, or the length of their resume. What weakens most men is the energy they broadcast, a desperate, approval-seeking, insecure energy that exposes one truth. They don't believe in themselves. And women sense that instantly. Not because women are mystical geniuses, but because humans are built to read emotional signals before we understand them. A woman doesn't need to analyze you to feel whether you're grounded or fragile, centered or chaotic, confident or pretending. Men think women chase beauty, money, or status first. They don't. Women chase the energy of a man who does not need them, a man who's centered, a man with direction, a man who does not try to convince anyone he's valuable, he simply is, and his life reflects it. That is what separates the magnetic man from the forgettable one. Low-value men perform, high-value men build, low-value men chase validation, high-value men create value, low-value men seek attention, high-value men command presence. In this breakdown, you'll learn the foundations of a man who becomes impossible to ignore, not only to women, but to life itself. Not by pretending, not by manipulating, not by acting like someone you're not, but by building the inner infrastructure of a man who radiates quiet, unwavering authority. This is not a motivational speech. This is a mirror. And by the end, you will know exactly which version of yourself you've been living as, and which one you must become. Let's begin. 1. Self-confidence, the silent divider between men. Real confidence doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't need witnesses. True confidence is calm, predictable, stable. A confidence built on competence, not performance. A high-value man steps into a room and doesn't need to prove who he is. People feel it. His presence speaks long before he does. Meanwhile, the low-value man tries to imitate confidence instead of earning it. He exaggerates, he performs, he brags, he flexes. He pretends to be unfazed when he's breaking inside. The difference is profound. One is anchored, the other is floating. Women detect the difference immediately, not because they're judging, but because a woman's nervous system is biologically designed to feel whether a man is grounded enough to be trusted. When your confidence is fake, your nervous system leaks anxiety, and she feels it before she can explain it. A confident man does not chase admiration. He chases mastery. He is willing to look foolish while learning. He is willing to stand alone while evolving. He is willing to be misunderstood while building himself. That's what women find intoxicating. Not the noise, but the depth, the mystery, the stability, the lack of neediness. A man who is whole within himself is rare, and rarity creates desire. Most men think confidence comes from attention. They imagine that if women liked them more, they would feel more confident. But the truth is the opposite. When you respect yourself, others follow. When you don't, they can't. Confidence is earned through discipline, doing the difficult, unglamorous things consistently until they harden you. Confidence is built in quiet rooms, in early mornings, in late nights, when no one applauds you and no one sees your effort. Low-value men seek validation. High-value men generate it by mastering themselves. And when you reach that level, something changes. Women stop being a goal and start being a byproduct. But confidence without direction is just arrogance, which is why we go deeper. Shiho 2. Purpose, the magnetic force. Women feel instantly. Purpose is a man's gravity. It's the invisible pull that makes women pay attention without you saying a word. A high-value man has a mission that guides him. His life is not reaction-based. He's not drifting. He's not waking up every day hoping something exciting happens. He creates direction. He builds momentum. He shapes his environment instead of letting his environment shape him. Women aren't drawn to the mission itself. They're drawn to what a mission does to a man. It gives him structure. It gives him discipline. It gives him emotional stability. It gives him a sense of internal abundance. A man with purpose becomes harder to manipulate because his life already has meaning beyond a woman, and that is what makes him attractive. He cannot be conquered easily. The low-value man wakes up and immediately distracts himself, scrolling, consuming, escaping. He's always busy, yet never progressing. He mistakes movement for advancement. He mistakes noise for achievement. He mistakes wanting for doing. Women feel that too. A man who's directionless becomes dependent, because without purpose he looks for identity inside relationships. That creates emotional neediness, the exact trait that destroys attraction. A high-value man has what I call directional gravity. People orbit around his movement. Opportunities come to him because he creates momentum. Women feel pulled toward him because progress is magnetic. He doesn't chase approval because he's too immersed in building something larger than himself. A man without purpose chases women. A man with purpose attracts the right ones and filters out the wrong ones automatically. Purpose doesn't just attract, it clarifies. It distinguishes who belongs in your life and who doesn't. But purpose means nothing without the trait that makes a man trustworthy, and that is integrity. 3. Integrity, the trait that separates men who are trusted. From men who are tolerated, integrity is not a moral slogan. It is structural strength. A man without integrity collapses the moment pressure hits. A high-value man is consistent with himself. His words and actions match. He doesn't inflate promises to impress. He doesn't manipulate expectations to gain attention. He doesn't speak to be liked. He speaks to be understood. Most men underestimate how deeply women feel inconsistency. When your words wobble, her instincts activate. When your actions don't match, her nervous system doesn't feel safe. You become unpredictable in all the wrong ways. A high-value man doesn't need to preach loyalty. He demonstrates it through reliability. He follows through because his identity demands it, not because someone is watching. Integrity builds a kind of masculine peace that's difficult to describe. You no longer scramble for approval. You no longer hide who you are. You no longer create chaos with your contradictions. Your internal world becomes aligned. And alignment creates power. Low-value men want trust without history. High-value men create trust through repetition. This is why integrity is the foundation. It's not flashy. It's not dramatic. But it's irreplaceable. Because without integrity, none of the other traits matter. But integrity requires a strong vessel, a man capable of carrying the weight of responsibility, which is why the next trait is unavoidable. 4. Self-care, the discipline that signals strength. Without words, most men think self-care is grooming and gym selfies. They think it's about appearances, but masculine self-care is deeper, much deeper. A high-value man sees himself as an asset that requires maintenance, sharpening, and upgrading. He treats his body as a machine that must be trained, his mind as a weapon that must be sharpened, his emotions as a system that must be regulated, his spirit as a compass that must be protected. Low-value men abuse their health and call it freedom. They avoid discipline and call it personality. They numb themselves with dopamine and call it relaxation. Women feel the result instantly. Posture, grooming, energy, eye contact. You can't fake the aura of a man who respects himself. Self-care is not vanity, it's capacity. The capacity to lead, to endure, to protect, to stay stable during chaos. A weak man collapses when life becomes heavy. A strong man holds the frame when others fall apart. That's why women are naturally drawn to discipline, not the aesthetics, the signal. The signal that says, I can handle my life, I can handle myself, and I won't depend on you to regulate my emotions. But self-care must evolve into something deeper, the ability to direct not just yourself, but the world around you, which brings us to the next trait. 5. Leadership. Authority, without force. Leadership is presence. True leadership requires no volume, no threats, no theatrics. A high-value man leads himself first. He manages his emotions instead of leaking them. He structures his time instead of wasting it. He maintains standards instead of negotiating them. He doesn't let impulses control him, he controls the impulses. This kind of internal authority radiates outward. People feel safer around a man who is in control of himself. He doesn't intimidate, he stabilizes, he doesn't dominate, he directs. Women are drawn to this type of man instinctively, not because they want to be ruled, but because a man with direction creates emotional security. A woman cannot relax around a man who collapses under pressure, but she naturally gravitates toward a man who moves through chaos with clarity. Low-value men want a title, high-value men take responsibility. Leadership is not about followers, it's about structure. A man whose life is in order becomes a reference point for others. Because leadership without responsibility is just ego. And ego is fragile, which leads us to the next trait, one most men avoid. 6. Responsibility, the weight that makes a man solid. Responsibility is masculine gravity. Weak men avoid it, strong men seek it. Responsibility gives a man mass, depth, and seriousness. It anchors him. It sharpens him. It forces him to grow. Taking responsibility means owning your mistakes instead of outsourcing blame. It means taking control of your emotions instead of expecting others to stabilize you. It means steering your life instead of drifting through it. Responsibility turns a boy into a man. Women instinctively trust men who carry weight, not because they want a servant, but because they want a partner whose foundation won't crumble when things get hard. A responsible man radiates one message: I can handle this. That energy builds emotional safety, and emotional safety creates attraction that lasts. Low-value men fear pressure. High-value men are forged by it. Responsibility brings something most men never experience: inner peace. Because once you stop waiting for someone to rescue you, you become the author of your life. But even responsibility without discernment becomes self-destruction, which brings us to the final trait. 7. Discernment, choosing value over appearance. A high-value man does not chase aesthetics, he evaluates substance. He understands that beauty without character becomes chaos. He understands that emotional instability, no matter how attractive the surface, destroys his peace. So he doesn't ask, is she attractive? He asks, can she bring stability into my life? This separates him from the masses. He listens to tone, not just words. He watches how she treats herself, not just how she looks in a dress. He evaluates her emotional patterns, not just her smile. Low-value men fall for stimulation. High-value men choose alignment. A valuable woman cannot manipulate him because his standards are not negotiable. He protects his peace because he values it more than temporary pleasure, and that is why he becomes truly desirable, not just as a lover, but as a presence. When you stop chasing beauty and start demanding value, everything changes. Your relationships, your friendships, your environment, your entire life begins elevating because you no longer tolerate chaos. A high-value man becomes selective, not reactive. He chooses himself so powerfully that the world begins to choose him back. Conclusion: the man you become determines the life you live. Every trait in this breakdown points toward one truth. Being a high-value man is not about impressing women, it's about becoming a man you respect. Women, opportunities, relationships, and success orbit naturally around a man who is centered, purpose-driven, disciplined, consistent, responsible, selective, and grounded in his own worth, not because he's performing, not because he's pretending, but because his inner world is aligned. So ask yourself, which traits are already yours? Which ones need work? Which ones have you avoided? And which ones, if you built them, would transform your entire life? Your value is not something you chase, it's something you become.